Here we have some propaganda and images regarding freedom of speech. What does constitutional provisions mean? The constitutional provisions is a law within the nation's constitution that was specifically designed for a purpose. The provisions cannot be changed in any court or common law. Also, if a provision is to be changed, it needs to go under a specific process which must be approved by the U.S. Congress and ratification by the states. Freedom of speech. The First Amendment protects freedom of speech. It was adopted on December 15th, 1791. It is part of the Bill of Rights, which are part of the first 10 amendments of the Constitution of the United States. It's strongly protected from government restrictions by many state constitutions, the United States constitutions, and by state and federal laws. Freedom of speech means that anyone can speak freely and share public expression of opinions without censorship, interference, and restraints by the government. There may be consequences if you use slander, obscenities, incitement, fighting words, classified information, copyright violations, and more. People have the right to assemble and peacefully protest their opinions. And through the art of music.
We the People. Late Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes declared defending free speech means defending not just free thought for those who agree with us, but freedom for the thought that we hate. Freedom of speech is protected and must be defended under the First Amendment of the Constitution. In 2015, the PEW Research Center polled 38 countries to see how freedom of speech is tolerated around the world. Interestingly, that study concluded that Americans don't necessarily like offensive speech more than others, but they are much less inclined to outlaw it. Luther Campbell, aka Uncle Luke, is a living legend in hip-hop culture. He's responsible for establishing freedom of speech within music recordings. He is the first person in U.S. history to have their music banned by a federal judge for obscenity. He is the first black man to independently own a thriving record label in the South. Additionally, he's credited for forming the first street team, the 2 Live Crew, selling millions of records in the 1990s. On March 7, 1994, the Supreme Court voted unanimously in the 2 Live Crew's favor to overturn the lower court's ruling. New law was established by the court finding that the 2 Live Crew lyrics did not meet the elements for obscenity. Campbell's case set precedent and paved the way for future generations to be able to express themselves without persecution or prosecution. Justice David Souter stated the following about the 2 Live Crew's song: that a work's commercial nature is only one element by which to judge fair use. Sauter did go on to say that the court might not assign a high rank. Campbell is also responsible for creating the parental advisory sticker that is the universal standard today for disclosure. He did so to provide a disclaimer/warning label on his music that allows consumers to differentiate explicit from non-explicit lyrical content.
So what are executive orders and legislations? I have written some points. Executive orders signed by President of United States, issued by federal agencies, no approval from Congress. U.S. President overturn executive orders in war or emergencies. Several types of funds instruct the action. And what are legislations? Nation government may pass with constitution power legislation throughout the nation. Supreme Court decide it conflict. Courts has power how it fit into the law. Benefits of public generally targeted by languages of citizens. An executive order is signed, written, and published directly from sitting President of United States. All three types of documents, executive orders, proclamations, and certain administrative orders, are published. Both orders, executive and proclamations, have a force of law. Executive orders are not legislations. They require no approval from Congress. Only sitting US President may overturn and exist executive orders by issuing another executive orders to that effect. These orders are subject to judicially review and may be overturned if the orders lack support by status or the constitutions. In US, the subject of legislations by the federal director of the country. Legislations usually authorize both funds and the conduct of other activities. Each state's progress lawmaking power effective with its boundaries. The national government, with the scope of its constitution power, may pass legislation effect throughout the nation. The Supreme Court may review state legislations and decide when or not its conflict with the Constitution of the United States. The court has the power not only to determine the constitution or legislations but also to decide what legislations mean and how it fit into the whole structure of the law. We individually of the US to frame a more amazing associations, set up equality, guarantee homegrown, recommend the regular guard, advance the overall government assistance, and secure the favor of freedom. Every person is equal for law, and everyone has rights to raise their hands in the United States.
The First Amendment gives Americans five basic freedoms: freedom of speech, press, petition, assembly, and religion. While all five are important, perhaps freedom of speech is talked about the most. Free speech is the cornerstone of our democracy. Although what you say can have consequences, like losing friends or a job, it gives Americans the right to express opinions without government censorship or control. And more importantly, you can't go to jail for expressing your opinion. It not only protects the speech that people like, but speech that people don't. Because when it comes to free speech, either everyone is protected or no one is at all. It allows citizens to support political movements and candidates. It gives people the power to call out government corruption and abuse. And most importantly, it empowers people to give unpopular opinions. The civil rights movement is a perfect example of free speech in action. During the 1950s and 60s, civil rights activists such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were able to use free speech as a tool to force change within society. By exercising their voice, civil rights activists were able to outlaw racial discrimination that plagued the nation. But in today's politically charged climate, some people believe the government should restrict certain speech. But thankfully, because of the First Amendment, everything from car commercials to fire